Metal Interview.
Hey, this is Bobby from Signs of the Swarm, and you're watching That Metal Interview podcast.
Amongst the Low and Empty is the title of the new record coming out very soon on July 28th. It drops. Century Media presents Signs of the Swarm. We are talking about a deathcore band hailing out of Pennsylvania and West Virginia, as our guest talks to us about. Our guest being Bobby Crow, drummer, former guitar player, former bassist for the same band, believe it or not. Signs of the Swarm is the band we are speaking of and playing their content on this episode of That Metal Interview. And anyways, here is our conversation with Bobby Crow, drummer extraordinaire for Signs of the Swarm. Enjoy. Okay, so first question I ask all my guests, what part of the planet are you at?
I am from North America. I live in West Virginia. I'm about an hour outside of Pittsburgh, which is where our band's based from.
Oh, okay. I thought you lived in Pittsburgh. Okay.
Yeah, I live right on the border of West Virginia and Pennsylvania. It's
right there, yeah.
It's just a short drive to the city. So our band is based out of Pittsburgh. A lot of the dudes we've had in and out of the band live in Pittsburgh or, in suburbs of Pittsburgh. So that's always been our home. That's where we started playing at and everything. So, but yeah, I'm in a nice quiet town outside.
Very cool.
That's how I like it.
I'm in Texas, so I'm in the heat, the scorching heat.
Oh, yeah. I love Texas, though. I really do.
Some crazy crowds, right?
Yeah, crowds, the food, just the venues are nice down there. It's fun. It's almost like a different world than most of the other country,
It is, right? Yeah. Very cool. So before we get into your new album, I just wanted to point out real quick, I've seen a couple of your interviews, and you seem like a cool guy, a real nice guy, and you would never think you play in a deathcore band. At all, because I've seen a bunch of musicians and lots of them look like pissed or they got some issues, but you're like a real cool laid back guy, and on top of that you're the guy in charge basically, right?
Yeah, I mean, sort of. Yeah, I wouldn't say in charge. Like we are, we're very much a group effort here. We always have been. But I do a lot of the writing of the music and a lot of the logistic stuff, you know what I mean? But for some reason I feel like my face is out there a lot compared to a lot of the other guys.
Right. So new album, Amongst the Low and Empty, dropping July 28th. Century Media.
Sir.
So first of all, congrats on Century Media. This is your second record with Century Media, or is it the third? Second.
This is our first full record with Century. We had a single release with them late last year in September, which that was right after we signed. It was just something we'd been working on, so that way we had something to put out to announce that we were with the label, to kind of have music to go with that, to show kind of the direction that we were moving towards with the label and everything. So this is our first album, but it's our second release with them. So
second release with Century Media. So talk to us about the making of it. Who does the riffs? Who does the lyrics, arrangements?
Yeah. So I mean, this album is really different for us. Things have changed a lot over a couple years. So we usually would do all of the writing. We do a lot of writing like on Skype together. We just all get in the thing, and you can share your screen on there, which is awesome, so we can all see what's happening.
Yeah.
And then we would get together and work on stuff, and then we go to the studio, right? So we do a lot of it here and then go to the studio. But we were on tour so much of 2021 and 2022 that we didn't have a ton of time to sit and write music together. So we went into the studio with just a handful of songs, and we ended up writing most of it in the studio. So it's kind of like there were multiple rooms in the studio. So I would be mostly working on, I write a lot of the guitar stuff, a lot of the riffs and the production and stuff like that. I would do a lot of that in one room, and as I was kind of finishing things, people would be popping in and out. I'd show them stuff, they'd give me ideas, they'd be like, try this, do this, and then I would send it over to our vocalist Dave and our bass player Mike. He's really great with words and lyrics and timing and stuff. And I would send it over to them, and they'd be in another room, and then they'd start working on all that stuff, all the vocals, and then we'd kind of get together in the main studio room and start tracking things and like really, bringing it all together. So that's how we did that one. It was just it was all in about a month and a half. We pretty much wrote most of it, recorded it, and then we came back after about a month to add a couple more songs actually, and just wrap everything up.
So it's teamwork.
We were there for a while. Yeah, it is a lot of teamwork. We're very, it's not really like, one person does all this and all that. It's
democracy.
We're all very open to ideas and everything, which is awesome.
So which is your favorite song on this record?
I think for me, track 10, it's called Faces Without Names. I really enjoy that song. I think it kind of like encompasses a lot of what we wanted to do with this record. So that was actually one of the songs that we came back and recorded after we went home for the holiday. We came back at the end of January and did 2 more songs, and they both kind of like flow together. It was really cool. They ended up sticking together on the album. It's the last 2 songs, and it just feels like kind of a lot of the ideas and a lot of the stuff we were working towards while writing the album in the studio like came together in that song. It just feels like everything kind of encompassed into this one song. Like it's very catchy, chorus is really big, and it happens a couple times, and it's just crazy. I really like that track.
Yeah, what I've heard so far is badass, so congrats on that. It's metal for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's really, we just kind of stick to like we're a deathcore band, or we're this and that. Sometimes we do the metalcore thing, sometimes we do the slam thing. It's just like, I just want to be like, I just want to be a heavy band, like, be able to kind of do whatever we feel like doing at the time, which is cool. It's not a lot of bands get to do that,
It's some real heavy music, some cool stuff. You got to be a fan to appreciate this, these grooves and these all these different tempo changes. And what's your inspiration here? Who do you guys listen to, or where do you get your ideas from? They're just crazy ideas. Don't get me wrong, they're awesome jams and changes and everything. It's just crazy, man. What's your inspiration here?
Well, I mean, we all grew up kind of in the same stuff. We grew up with just lots of just heavy music. I mean, obviously we're, our earlier stuff, I mean, and even now we're still influenced by a lot of the deathcore bands that really got us into this, like just, your Suicide Silence, the Old Fit for an Autopsy, your Whitechapel, stuff like that. So there's always a little bit of that carries into it. Like, even if I tried not to write like, that style, I think it would come out anyways, because this is kind of what we are. But there's a lot more like rhythmic centric things, like very fast, like short patterns and stuff. And I think a lot of that comes from our more like progressive style background. Like I'm a huge fan of Fear Factory, especially like their mid to late 2000s stuff, like Industrialized.
Yeah, good stuff.
I think a lot of that comes out like accidentally as well. Like I'll do some patterns, the guitar and the kick all kind of line up, and there's a little bit of melody in there, and I'll go back and I'll be like, man, like there's so much of that band that kind of influences what I do as far as writing from like a drummer and guitar player, side of things. I think lyrically a lot of Dave's vocals very powerful. It's very like raw from the chest. I think that comes from a lot of stuff he grew up listening to, like older deathcore and hardcore. And but as far as the lyrics go, a lot of that's very personal, and I think he gets that from a lot of that comes from within him. I don't really know lyrically what his influences are. I'd say a lot of it he tries to be creative and come up with it from the heart, which is cool. We don't do a whole lot of like vague outer personal things. A lot of it's very personal experiences, and I think that's cool for like a deathcore band. You know what I mean? That's not so much like, oh, the world is shit, or oh, government, or this and that. It's more
personal,
more emotional, I think. Yeah,
very cool. So speaking of the band's name, it's an awesome name, very original. Who came up with it, and what's behind the name? I know you're like one of the only original guys left, right? Do you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the name was established before I actually came into the band. So our original vocalist and guitar player, they went to school together, and for a couple years, even before this band was a thing, they would make music together and do covers, post covers on YouTube. And the band, like, there were 3 or 4 different names before they settled on Signs of the Swarm. So there was a lot of different S's and different S names and stuff like that. So they really liked the
Right.
S's. But yeah, by the time when I discovered that this band was coming up, it was just two or three of them in a small little practice room somewhere. They posted a video on Facebook, and they're like, "Yeah, we're looking for members," and
Yeah.
it was just the 3 of them at the time, and that's kind of how I found them and got involved. So
You
yeah,
started.
I came in. I can't say I started the band, but I came in very early, when we were writing before we were playing shows and stuff.
Yeah, you kept the flag going. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for that. A lot of things change, and it's a very difficult, job and business and passion. So
There's a huge buzz on you guys. What do you credit on that? Is it a lot of touring, hard work, of course? Do you think it's the music, or why is there a lot of buzz with the band now that us fans are?
yeah. I think, especially back in the day, I mean, we've been officially a band for about 10 years. It'll be officially next year 10 years, I think, since we started playing shows. And back then, all we really cared about was just being a stupidly heavy band. We just wanted to do crazy stuff, and I think that really got people's attention. Like, our first 2 records were just breakdowns and slams and crazy vocals and crazy drums, and so we've tried to carry that element, like that emotion, through the years. But we've had, like I said, we've had a lot of member changes and this and that. Obviously, we got a new vocalist about 6 years ago now, David, and he's been here for the majority of the band, and that's very much influenced. His voice has really influenced how I write and how we write, just to kind of like complement his voice versus what we were using before, and it kind of allowed us to do some more, I don't want to say progressive, but just to branch out more and do some more technical stuff and kind of experiment past, mostly being like a breakdown band or a slam band. And I think that it's his vocal patterns and where his voice sits allows us to kind of be a little more groovy and let him, leave him some room to really do the work and make the songs catchy and memorable. And I think that's been really well. And then also, the touring, of course. Like, then we toured a good bit, like a little bit before he came around, but once he joined the band, it really allowed us to tour a lot more, because everybody that was in the band was really interested in touring.
Yeah.
And we've been, aside from COVID, obviously, we've been on the road almost constantly in the last 6 years, aside from that year and a half. So that has helped us a lot, getting to tour with bands that, the fans might not be exactly our crowd, but we kind of have a array enough of music that we can appeal to a pretty wide group of people, depending on who we're playing with and who we're supporting and whatnot.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely the touring has been a huge part of it. And I think these new songs are catchier and groovier. There's a lot. It's a little bit easier to understand and grasp what's going on. It gets stuck in your head. And I think that's been the big thing for the last few months. Is I think the songs really represent a lot of what we've been working towards in the last couple of years. So it has been going really well. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you keep in touch with the original guys, some of the older guys?
Yeah, some of them. Like, so when I joined the band, I actually joined playing guitar, because they had a guitar player, a drummer, and a vocalist. They had a bassist off and on. Yeah, he'd actually wanted to play guitar, ended up playing bass, this and that. But like the original drummer from 2014, 2015, Greg Charlie, I still keep in touch with him. He's a really great guy. I don't so much keep in touch with our old original vocalists, original guitar players. It's just kind of, they're off doing their own thing, and I'm obviously still doing this. So yeah, I mean, I do try to keep in touch with people, but I do feel like I'm very, very busy with this and hardly have the time to see my family and communicate with my family and my friends here at home versus the band. Obviously keep just maintaining the conversations and relationships with my bandmates and my business partners and stuff. So it's a lot to keep up on.
Right. Well, hats off to you. You've managed to take the band from a local scene to a worldwide level. I mean, you guys tour Australia, Europe, and so on, right? I mean, congrats on that. That's a
Yeah,
huge,
thank you.
yeah, that's a huge accomplishment right there. You've taken it
Yeah, I
worldwide.
mean,
Yeah,
every time we get a tour offer, we're always grateful. We're always still very excited to go to these places, and especially the overseas stuff. We're trying to break into. We just got to do Mexico recently, just a few weeks ago actually, and it's crazy to think that we made it to Asia and Australia and all these places
yeah,
like multiple times before we ever made it to Mexico, which is right here.
yeah. So, as you said, you've played guitar before, bass with the band, and drums now. Which was your first instrument, though? Are you a drummer first, or?
Yeah, I'm a drummer first. I started playing drums when I was 8 years old, I think. My mom, I had an acoustic guitar. It was kind of cheap and shitty when I was a kid. And I asked her for Christmas. I was like, oh, I would love an electric guitar, just like something cheap, And she, for like months, was hyping me up about Christmas. I don't come from like a very, like a rich family or anything like that. So it was very exciting. I was like, oh man. She's like, you're gonna love what I got you for Christmas. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, she got me a guitar. Like I was so hyped up. And then Christmas came, and she'd actually got me a little starter, like SLP drum set, and I was just a kid, and I was like not bummed out. I thought it was cool, but I just remember being like, oh, okay, cool. I guess I'll play drums. And she told me, because I was super into music, into metal. I was very grateful for my mother. She got me. As a kid, she was like, have you ever heard of this band like Breaking Benjamin? Have you ever heard of Disturbed or Slipknot? Korn, and she really kind of not pushed me, but showed me this music, and then we'd listen to it in the car. I'd tune it from school and stuff. And she said to me, great guitar players are a dime a dozen, but truly great drummers are very hard to come by. And I have kept that with me my whole life, honestly. Like, it's very true. I mean, there are many amazing drummers. There are countless amazing drummers, and but even still, there's for every great drummer, there's 5-10 great guitar players. So she knew that I really liked music, and I wanted to play something, so she kind of got me into that, and I started doing that. And yeah, I was in bands in high school and playing local shows, and did a little bit of touring with some bands, like pop punk bands, local metal bands and stuff.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until this band that we really started hitting the road hard. Yeah, I kind of learned to play guitar just from hanging out with dudes that I was in bands with. Like, they'd teach me riffs from like Killswitch Engage or As Lay Dying, all these old metalcore riffs, and they'd teach them to me just so I could play the other guitar, so they could learn to play the harmonies and stuff. It was back before we were kids. We couldn't afford recording stuff or computers. It was just like, all right, play this riff so I can figure out the harmony, and then sit and figure it out. So I learned to play guitar through that pretty much, and then I just kind of kept doing it. And I was never like a great guitar player by any means. I don't think I really even am now, but I know my way around enough, and especially with help from a computer, I can record things and then look back and kind of cut them up and see what I like and what I don't like. And I think I use that as more of a tool, versus drums is just like, I'm very passionate about that. I could just sit and play drums all day.
Yeah. Well, you're a talent for sure. I mean, playing drums like that is just, as your mom said, I mean, there's not too many of those, I mean, it's tough to play the double bass like that in the first place. Yeah, that's tough.
I definitely, I focused on that a lot. Like, when I was younger in high school, I was just, I was in band, like drumline and all that stuff when I was a kid and up until through college pretty much. But when I was younger, it was just like speed, I was just always trying to play faster, figure out how to play faster, just play blast beats all day. And then as I've gotten older, I've really like come to respect and be very interested in like groove and jazz musicians and stuff, and funk and fusion, and just the thought behind the fills and the musicality of that kind of stuff I think is really cool. Like, it's not, a lot of times in metal it's like, I'm gonna play this thing because it's crazy, and not so much because like, oh, this fits the this amplifies the music, you know what I mean? So I think that's very interesting, and I don't really think too much about the speed. It's like, I'm very grateful, like, having that growing up. I mean, you definitely have to maintain it, but I was grateful to kind of have the time as a kid and have the the classes and stuff, and being in and out of school, and I'd go home and I'd play drums to really develop that when I was younger. So it's just kind of carried with me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus like the other things I really have to work on, like being mindful of what's happening in the music and not just playing crazy shit all the time. So
very cool. Here's a different question, Bobby. You've mentioned several band changes, lineup changes. That is, every time that happens, have you ever thought of just giving up, or any negative thoughts there? Like, you know what, I'm done with this, or how are your feelings there when a guitar player quits, for example?
Question, honestly. Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I've had multiple moments of being in this band of like, oh, maybe I think it's more of an imposter syndrome kind of thing. Like maybe this isn't for me, or maybe I should just be, doing something here at home, or just working with bands or this and that. But I mean, there's definitely been times where I've been concerned, or worried that maybe the fans wouldn't like what we do without certain people, just because we had certain people in the band for years and years. But it's interesting. I feel like every time, first of all, I'm very grateful to have an awesome support system of like our, different managers we've worked with over the years, and labels and anytime anything happens, I've never really had anyone, doubt us. Like you might think, no one's ever been like, oh man, I don't know, maybe you should just hang it up or this. Everyone's just, everyone's always been like,
support.
Just like look for the silver lining, I guess, and that was helpful for me. So
support system.
No, I think.
Yeah.
I think every time we've lost somebody or something has changed, somehow it always ends up working out for the better. And I don't mean that negatively to anyone, but it's just usually there's a reason it doesn't work out, right? And almost every time that something has changed, it's opened us up to new opportunities, whether it's meeting new people or giving us the ability to do more work and things like that. So I'm very grateful that we haven't given it up. You know what I mean? Like we've come so much farther than like our first major lineup change was almost 6 years ago, and then we've had like 2 or 3 since then, and that hasn't been quite as extreme. But it seems like I can look back and see the growing pains and the growing points of every time something's changed. Like you push through, just keep making music, you have a good attitude about it, and I think people, for the most part, see that. We still get comments on stuff like, oh, I like this more, I prefer this person or whatever, and that's fine. I really do appreciate that people still listen to, even if it's our older music. I appreciate that people still listen to it, whether they care about our new stuff or not. I think it's really cool to have that. It's like a moment in time, but generally people seem to appreciate that we've kept going and tried to make the best of it, so that helps me a lot.
Just don't get me wrong. Of course, I mean, I love your music. You have a lot of fans, and it's a good decision there that you kept going, and it takes a certain amount of persistence and dedication to keep going, and a support system, like you said. So that's awesome. Hats off. So
thank you.
So this is a different question here. Give us your best gig and your worst gig so far.
Well, that's funny. Man, our best gig, I want to say we've had a couple of really great gigs. It's hard to pick. I think the gig we ever played with the most people, ironically, was in the Philippines. We played to nearly probably 5,000 people in the middle of an empty parking lot in the Philippines. It was crazy. They made it a free show, and I just think there's not a lot of metal stuff that happens out there, like touring bands. And there were some local bands there that were very popular. That obviously very much helped. They weren't all there to see us, but we got to perform for a lot of people, and the crowd was great and super respectful. And that was really cool. I think we did a sold out show at the Masquerade in Atlanta, which was very cool because we've played there in all the rooms. They have 3 different rooms there, different sizes. But we've played there in all the rooms over the years, so getting to kind of come back and see that place sold out, that was very special.
Awesome.
And let me think. Our worst show. I don't know. We sometimes you have those shows where everything goes wrong. You have power problems and things are breaking or what have you. we've never really had any bad shows where it's like, oh, the crowd was miserable or anything like that. You know what I mean? Or like people booing us or anything. So thankfully, we've never had that problem. But I think we did a show in Malaysia right around the same time that we did the Philippines show, and the airline, we were flying from New Zealand to Asia, and the airline lost a bunch of our gear, like almost all of it.
Oh wow!
So we had to show up and make do with what we had, and we had to borrow stuff from other people, and then we got there, and it was an awesome show. It was packed, but it was probably the hottest I've ever been. Like there's no AC there, and there were maybe 150 people packed in a tiny room, and it was.
Wow.
I mean, I felt like I was getting sunburn inside, like I was boiling alive. So that was a very hard one to fight through, and we were playing a long set at the time. I think we were playing maybe an hour, so it was tough, man. It was very tough.
That was a tough one, yeah.
I don't want to say worse, because like I said, it was a great crowd, and I really appreciate being there. But just as far as like stress and physical, strenuity, it was a very rough one off the top of my head.
So what's next for yourself, Bobby? What's on your agenda? What's next for the band here?
Yeah, so we have our like you mentioned before, our album Amongst the Lone Empties coming out on July 28th. We're doing a run of album release shows from the 28th through I think August 5th, and then we are immediately flying to Europe to do a bunch of the festivals over there, which I'm super excited for. Then we're playing some headline shows in between some support shows. We're headlining the UK for the first time. We've been there a couple times, but we're our first time headlining, so I'm very excited to go back and do that. And then I don't know if I could say much, because I don't think things will be announced, but we are doing another full US tour as direct support, so we'll get to play a nice long set here in the US later this year.
Awesome.
With some really sick bands, so that's cool. And then yeah, we're staying busy. We're already looking into 2024. We're planning on booking a headline tour here in the US to support the album early next year. Might be going back to Asia and Europe again, and then yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think within the next year and a half we'll probably be back where we were, writing and recording again.
Yeah, that's a cycle.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, it's just a big cycle. So
very cool.
Just look out for us on the road. We'll be just about everywhere, I'm sure. So.
Oh, for sure. Would you like to send a message, Bobby, to your fans listening to this podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. Firstly, I'd just love to say thank you. It means the world to me that anybody would check out anything that I do and check out this podcast. Yeah, like I said, our album will be out soon, so pre-orders are available. If you could pick that up, it'd mean the world to us. Check out our video. We actually have a new song coming out here in just a few days, so this may be out. I don't know if this will be out by then, but if not, then please check it out if you haven't already. It'll be on Century Media Records and all that good stuff. So yeah,
awesome.
Of course, I'd just love to say thank you. And thank you to you as well for having me. I really appreciate it. I love getting to do these.
Yeah, thank you for making time, Bobby, and it's a blast talking to you. You seem like a cool guy, and we'll catch you in San Antonio or Austin or somewhere in Texas soon.
Yeah, absolutely. If you ever see us coming around, like I said, I'm sure we'll be down there later this year. Feel free to hit me up on Instagram. I'm on Instagram at Bobby Sots and Signs of the Swarm.
That'd be great. So we'll see you on the road, Bobby. Thank you for your time.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you very much.
If you're not a fan of metal and you listen to country or pop or stuff like that, this is not for you, because this is just extreme heavy stuff, off tempos, different tempos, time changes, and so on and so forth. Not to say to stay away from metal, but I'm saying this is just extreme stuff that you have to be open-minded about. And anyways, the band is called Signs of the Swarm. You guys can now pick it up, stream it, and download it if you're listening to this episode after July 28th. If it's before July 28th that you're listening to this interview, you can only stream the video so far, which you can find on streaming services, YouTube and all that. The latest one being Malady, Malady, and this is one of the songs. They're all badass. Tower of Torsos. You guys have to check it out. And thank you once more to Mr. Bobby Crow for carrying the torch for the band, him being the only original member since near inception of the band, as he talked to us about. Although the vocalist has been there since 2016, give or take. So anyways, congrats to them. Congrats to the band for becoming a worldwide known band. I mean, these guys tour Asia, they tour Europe, Mexico, everywhere. US, of course, Canada. So catch them on the road. And thank you guys for producing awesome metal once more. Thank you, Bobby. And on behalf of your friend James, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, ring the bell, and download, stream through our social media streaming services. Check it out there. Check out the interviews. And we appreciate your support to all our metal rock friends out there. So anyways, don't forget to keep it metal.
That metal interview.